There are moments in life when the world seems to close in around the soul, when the air itself feels heavy and even the stars refuse to shine. For many, this darkness comes quietly, like fog over the sea. For others, it strikes like thunder, loss, betrayal, depression, despair. But sometimes, in that very darkness, the faint sound of a prayer rises, the soft rhythm of Hail Marys whispered through tears. And with each word, light begins to flicker again. It began one winter night. The city was asleep beneath a cold rain, and in a small apartment at the edge of town, a man sat alone at his kitchen table. The clock ticked steadily. A cup of untouched coffee had gone cold beside him. His name was Miguel, though he hardly remembered who he was anymore. He had lost his job, his home nearly gone, and his wife had left with their child, taking with her the last thread of warmth he had known. Bills piled like walls around him. His heart had become a hollow echo chamber of guilt and exhaustion. That night, he thought there was nothing left to live for. He opened a drawer, not searching for salvation, but for escape. And there, tangled among old receipts and broken pens, he found something unexpected, a rosary. He stared at it in confusion. It wasn't his. It had belonged to his mother, the one who used to pray beside his bed when he was a boy. He remembered her soft voice, her hands folded, her eyes filled with the peace he could never understand. And now, in the silence of his ruin, that peace seemed impossible. And yet, strangely near, he picked up the rosary. The beads were cold in his hand, but something in him trembled, not from fear, but recognition. A memory surfaced. His mother saying, "When you can't pray, just hold it. Mary will pray for you." So he did. He didn't know the words anymore. He didn't even believe they would matter, but he held the cross against his chest and whispered, "If you're there, help me." That night, Miguel didn't see visions or hear voices, but something began to change. He couldn't explain it, a warmth spreading through his chest, like the first ray of dawn piercing through a closed window. The weight didn't vanish, but for the first time in months, it shifted. He felt the faint stirring of peace, fragile, trembling, but real. He slept that night for the first time in weeks, and the next morning, he found himself whispering another prayer, not out of obligation, but longing. He picked up the rosary again. The words came back slowly, haltingly, but each one felt like a step out of the grave he had built for himself. Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord is with thee. With every bead, something within him unfurled, a light pushing through the cracks. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't loud. It was the slow, steady dawn of a heart finding its way home. Weeks passed. Miguel began walking each day to the little church 2 blocks away. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't stay long. He would just kneel, take out that old rosary, and let the beads slip through his fingers as morning light streamed through the stained glass. The priest noticed him, the quiet man with tired eyes and the gentlest hands. One morning, after Mass, he approached him. "You've come every day," he said softly. "Are you praying for something?" Miguel hesitated. His voice cracked when he finally replied, "No, Father. I think I'm praying to remember how to live." The priest smiled. "Then Our Lady is already answering you. There is something extraordinary in that. The rosary doesn't always bring miracles of lightning and wonder. Sometimes its greatest miracle is resurrection of the soul, the quiet awakening of hope in a heart that thought itself dead. That is the mystery of the rosary. It does not erase suffering. It transforms it. It takes the darkness that once suffocated and turns it into soil, rich and ready for light to bloom." Miguel would later say that every decade he prayed became like a lamp lit in the night. 5 mysteries, 5 lamps, and one by one they led him home. Years later, when his life had changed, when he had found work, reconciled with his family, and even helped others battling despair, he still kept that same rosary. The beads had worn smooth with prayer. The cross bore faint fingerprints from nights of pleading and tears, but he never replaced it. "This rosary," he once said to a friend, didn't just remind me of God, it reminded God of me, and that is where our journey begins today, in the small miracles hidden in the lives of those who once walked through darkness and found the hand of Mary waiting in the shadows, because every light you see in the world began first as a spark, and sometimes that spark was born from a single bead held by trembling hands. In the silence of night, her name was Elena, 24 years old, bright and talented, with the future that had once seemed limitless, but somewhere along the path, light turned to shadow. It began quietly. Sleepless nights, trembling hands, thoughts that looped endlessly like a broken record, anxiety, depression, panic. Each day felt like trying to breathe through glass. Her friends didn't understand. "You're strong," they told her. "You'll get through it." But no one saw the nights she spent curled on her bedroom floor, gasping for air, whispering, "I can't do this anymore." The world told her to find calm in distractions, in self-help videos, in soft lights and breathing exercises. But the emptiness only deepened, and the silence grew heavier. Then one night, after a particularly crushing wave of panic, she ran from her apartment, barefoot, breathless, into the cool air of midnight. She didn't know where she was going. She just walked, until she found herself standing before a small church she had passed 1,000 times but never entered. The doors were locked, but in the alcove by the entrance, there was a statue of the Virgin Mary, serene with hands open, eyes cast gently toward heaven. A candle flickered weakly beside her, and for reasons she could not explain, Elena dropped to her knees. She didn't know how to pray. She hadn't prayed since childhood, but she whispered between sobs, "If you're real, if you still care, please make this stop." She felt foolish, alone, and yet something in the stillness around her shifted. The night seemed to breathe with her. The air softened, and in that small alcove, she noticed something lying by the statue's base, a rosary, half buried beneath wax drippings and dust. She reached for it. The beads were worn, the cross slightly bent, but it was whole. It felt alive. When she got home, she didn't sleep. Instead, she searched online for how to pray the rosary. She found a video. Her hands trembled as she followed along. "Hail Mary, full of grace." At first her voice shook, then with each decade the shaking eased. Her breath slowed. Her heart began to settle. For the first time in months, she felt peace. She didn't understand it. She couldn't explain it, but that night, she slept without fear. And when morning came, the light through her window felt different. Not harsh, not empty, but gentle. Like a mother's touch, days turned to weeks every night. She prayed the rosary, not because she was healed, but because it helped her hold on. In the moments when the panic returned, she would clutch the crucifix and whisper, "Be with me, Mother. Just stay with me." And she swore she could feel her there, not as a distant image, not as a statue, but as a presence, patient, loving, real. Once, during a particularly difficult night, she awoke at 3 a.m. to the familiar wave of fear rising in her chest. She reached for the rosary under her pillow. But before she could even speak, she saw a faint light near her window, soft, golden like candlelight, and in that glow, just for a moment, she saw the outline of a figure, veiled in blue, serene, eyes filled with compassion. The fear vanished. The light faded, but peace remained. From that night on, her healing began. It wasn't instant. There were still tears, still anxious days, but her prayers became her breath, steady, rhythmic, life-giving. Every Hail Mary was like oxygen for her soul. Her doctor noticed the change. Her family noticed it too. The laughter that had disappeared slowly returned. The heaviness that had followed her like a shadow began to lift. And one day, standing before that same church, Eleanor left her own rosary by the statue next to where she had found hers, not out of superstition, but out of gratitude. She wanted someone else, lost and desperate, to find hope as she had. Months later, she would write in her journal, "The rosary did not erase my anxiety. It taught me to face it with faith. Every bead was a breath, every mystery a door back into light. And that's what the Rosary does. It doesn't promise to remove all pain, but to redeem it, to take what's broken, and through repetition and surrender, slowly mend it into peace. It's the prayer that holds when everything else falls apart, the rhythm that steadies the soul when the world trembles. And for those who cling to it, like Elena, like so many others, it becomes more than prayer. It becomes life support for the spirit. There's an old saying, the Rosary is a chain that binds heaven to earth. But for some, it's more personal. It's the hand that pulls them from the pit, the voice that whispers, "You are not alone," and the gentle light that leads them, bead by bead from darkness, into dawn. His name was Miguel. He used to say his life could be summed up in 2 words, escape and emptiness. For years, he had lived in the streets of Madrid, drifting from one addiction to another. Alcohol, pills, anything that could numb the ache in his chest. He had once been a carpenter, strong and steady with his hands, but the bottle had stolen his craft, his home, and his dignity. He was not evil, only broken, only tired. He had stopped believing in God long ago. When people spoke of hope, he laughed. Hope, he'd say, is for the ones who've never been hungry. But one winter night, as frost bit at his fingers, he wandered into the back of a cathedral, not out of faith, but because it was open and warm. The scent of incense clung to the air. Candles flickered in small pools of light, and somewhere near the front, an old woman was whispering prayers. Miguel sat at the last pew. He didn't know what to do with silence. He bowed his head, not to pray, but to hide his tears. Then he noticed something near him, on the floor, half tucked beneath a hymn book. A rosary. The beads were dark, smooth, glinting faintly in the candlelight. He picked it up, curious, and suddenly he remembered. His mother used to have one. He could see her hands, wrinkled and strong, gliding over the beads as she whispered words that made no sense to him then. He hadn't thought of her in years. She had died before his fall began, but now, sitting there in the dim glow of the cathedral, something cracked open inside him. He clutched the rosary tight, like a man clings to a lifeline. He didn't know how to pray it. He didn't even know the words, so he said the only thing he could, "Mother, help me. I don't want to die like this." It was the first prayer he had spoken in decades. He didn't feel lightning, he didn't hear voices, but he did feel something, a warmth, like someone had placed a cloak over his shoulders. He stayed there for hours. When dawn came, he walked to a nearby soup kitchen run by nuns. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. Sister Lucia, the one who served him, noticed the rosary in his hand. "You pray?" she asked kindly. He hesitated. "Not really. I just found this," she smiled. "Maybe it found you." Those words struck him like thunder. She taught him the mysteries of the Rosary that same morning, explaining the joyful, sorrowful, and glorious moments of Christ's life. And as she spoke, Miguel realized something he had never known, that the Rosary was not just repetition, not a chant of empty words, but a journey through the life of Jesus, seen through his mother's eyes. He began to come every morning. At first he prayed haltingly, unsure of the rhythm, but day by day the words began to root themselves in his heart. Hail Mary, full of grace. And with each Hail Mary, something invisible loosened its grip around his soul. One night, after nearly a month of sobriety, the temptation came back with brutal force. He could hear the old voice in his head. "Just one drink. You deserve it." He walked past the corner bar where he used to spend every evening. His hands trembled. His breath quickened. Then instinctively, he reached into his pocket and found the rosary. He held it tight, pressing the crucifix against his chest. And as the urge surged, he whispered, "Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners." He didn't stop walking. He didn't go in. For the first time in years, the chain of addiction didn't pull him. The rosary held him instead. He kept walking until the streetlights faded behind him and the dawn began to break. He fell to his knees on the curb, tears mixing with the dust, whispering the final prayer, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Months turned to a year. Miguel found work again, sanding wood, repairing doors for the same cathedral that had sheltered him. He smiled often now, though the lines of his struggle still marked his face. He wore his rosary around his wrist, always. When asked why, he'd say, "It's not jewelry. It's the rope that pulled me out of the pit." He began to help others, those who came to the soup kitchen trembling, desperate, defeated. He would place a rosary in their hands and say, "It won't fix everything at once, but it will teach you how to hope again." And hope, true hope, is stronger than any drug. When asked once if he believed in miracles, Miguel smiled and said, "I am one. Not because I was healed overnight, but because the Mother of God didn't pass me by when I was too dirty to pray." There are many kinds of miracles, some spectacular like sudden healings, and others quiet like the man who chooses life again each day, bead by bead. Miguel's story is proof that no one is beyond grace, that even in the filth and ruin of sin, Mary walks among the lost, not with judgment, but with a mother's persistence. And when she places the rosary in a sinner's hands, it becomes what it has always been, a chain, not of bondage, but of deliverance. A lifeline strong enough to pull a soul back into the light. Her name was Teresa, and for 30 years she had begun and ended every day with the rosary. Not because life had been easy, but because it hadn't. She was a widow, a mother of 2 grown sons. When her husband passed away suddenly, she found herself alone, holding the family together by prayer and persistence. Her faith wasn't loud nor complicated. It was simple, like breath, like heartbeat. Every morning before dawn, Teresa would sit by her kitchen window, her rosary worn smooth by years of tears and devotion. And every night, before bed, she would whisper her children's names in the glow of a small candle before the image of Our Lady of Fatima. But then came the letter, the one that froze her blood and bent her knees to the floor. Her youngest son, Antonio, had been called to the front lines, a war none of them had started, none of them wanted. He was 23, strong, hopeful, and unprepared for what he was about to see. Teresa read the letter again and again. Then she folded it carefully, placed it beneath her statue of the Virgin, and whispered, "If I cannot go with him, Mother, please go in my place." From that day on, her rosary became her mission. Each bead, a heartbeat of intercession. Each mystery, a shield raised against the terror of war. She prayed through the joyful mysteries with trembling hope, remembering the angel's words to Mary, "Be not afraid." She prayed through the sorrowful mysteries with tears, joining Mary beneath the cross of her own fear. And through the glorious mysteries, she clung to the promise that even death is not the end. Neighbors began to notice the light burning late in Teresa's window. They knew what it meant. They would pass by quietly, bowing their heads, whispering, "She's praying for her boy." Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Antonio was living through nightmares no mother should have to imagine. There were days when smoke blackened the sun, when the air trembled with the sound of artillery, and hope seemed like a distant rumor. But even there, in mud and fear and exhaustion, something unseen accompanied him. He didn't understand it, he couldn't explain it, but he said later, "There were moments when I should have died, but didn't. And in those moments I could almost hear my mother's voice." He kept a rosary in his pocket, a small one made of wood that his mother had given him before he left. He never prayed it at first, but one night, after losing a close friend, he took it out and held it tight. The words came slowly, haltingly, "Hail Mary, full of grace." He hadn't prayed in years, but somehow, in the noise of gunfire, he felt peace. He fell asleep holding it, the crucifix pressed against his chest. Weeks later, during a brutal night assault, Antonio's unit was caught in an ambush. The explosion came without warning, a thunder that ripped the sky apart. When he regained consciousness, everything was fire and dust. He felt blood on his face, the taste of metal in his mouth. He couldn't move his leg. He reached into his pocket. The rosary was still there. Though half the beads were shattered, he held the crucifix and whispered, "Mother, don't let me die here." Through the haze, he saw a light, faint, golden, swaying through the smoke. He thought it was the fire, but as it drew closer, he saw her, a woman clothed in light, walking toward him through the chaos. She said nothing. She only smiled and extended her hand. When rescuers arrived at dawn, they found Antonio alive among ruins where no one else had survived. His injuries were serious, but his heart was steady. The medics couldn't explain it. He told them later, "I saw her. I don't know how, but I saw her. She came for me, back home that same night." Teresa had been praying her rosary when she suddenly felt an overwhelming warmth, as though the room itself filled with unseen sunlight. She knew, deep in her soul, her son had been spared. Days later, the letter arrived, this time not from the army, but from Antonio himself. He wrote, "Mother, I don't know what happened that night, but I think you were there," or she was. "Either way, I'm alive because of your prayers." Teresa wept, not from sorrow, but from gratitude. She kissed her rosary and whispered, "Thank you, Mother. You never fail those who trust in you." When Antonio finally returned home, the first thing he did was kneel at his mother's feet. She placed her old, worn rosary in his hands and said, "It was this and her that kept you safe. He kept it ever after. Its beads chipped, its crucifix bent, a relic of both war and mercy." Whenever someone asked him why he survived, he would smile softly and reply, "Because my mother's prayers reached heaven before the bullets reached me." The rosary. It is not only a prayer, it is a weapon of peace, a mother's shield, a soldier's armor, a lifeline of love. Wherever it is prayed, in hospitals, prisons, war zones, or quiet rooms, it carries the same power to pull souls from darkness, to protect the innocent, and to remind the broken that heaven still listens. And in the hands of a mother, its power is magnified, for no prayer is more potent than a mother's plea, and no intercessor more tender than the Mother of God herself. When the stories end, the silence that follows feels almost sacred, a quiet after the storm, a stillness that speaks louder than words. Maria, the woman who once trembled on the edge of despair, now helps others through grief. Her rosary always in hand, each bead reminds her of the night she chose to keep believing when hope was only a whisper. Jonas, the man who escaped addiction, now leads a small prayer group at his parish. He tells those still trapped in darkness, "I wasn't healed by my strength. I was found by mercy." And Teresa, the mother whose prayers shielded her son through fire, has gone home to God. But her rosary, cracked and weathered, hangs above Antonio's bed, a relic of the miracle that love made possible. 3 lives, 3 paths, woven by the same thread of grace, each touched by the same mystery, each lifted, not by human effort, but by divine tenderness. It's easy, in the age of noise and disbelief, to dismiss stories like these, to label them coincidence, to reduce faith to sentiment. But miracles rarely announce themselves with thunder. They come quietly, in hospital rooms, on battlefields, in trembling hearts, in the moments when all seems lost, and only prayer remains, and the rosary. Oh, the rosary, it is not magic. It is not superstition. It is the rhythm of heaven meeting earth. A prayer that teaches the soul how to breathe again. Each bead a spark of light, each Hail Mary a step toward hope, each mystery a window opening to the face of Christ. If you hold the rosary long enough, something happens. The words cease to be recited. They begin to live. They move through you, not as repetition, but as revelation. You begin to see that Mary is not distant. She is beside you, a mother walking through your sorrow. gently lifting your eyes toward the dawn. Through her, the light of her sun reaches every shadow. Through her, even the deepest wounds become doors to grace. And through the Rosary, hearts long dead to hope begin to beat again. Look around the world today, the wars, the fear, the loneliness, and yet somewhere someone is whispering, "Hail Mary, full of grace." Maybe it's a mother in a hospital waiting room, praying for her child. Maybe it's a soldier in a dark trench, clutching a wooden crucifix. Maybe it's you, weary, uncertain, needing a light that doesn't fade. Each of those voices joins the same unseen choir, a river of prayer that has never stopped flowing since the day the angel first greeted the Virgin with those words. And as long as that prayer is whispered in any language, by any soul, darkness will never have the final word. The Rosary is not just a devotion, it is a bridge from chaos to peace, from fear to faith, from death to life. When you pray it, you join hands with millions across centuries, saints, sinners, soldiers, mothers, and children, all united in one timeless heartbeat of love. It is the prayer that once turned tears into miracles. It is the chain that binds the broken to heaven. It is the song of Mary. And through it, the world still hears the voice of her Son. So tonight, wherever you are, if your life feels dim, if hope seems far, pick up the Rosary. Let the beads slide through your fingers like drops of mercy. Let the words steady your breath. Let your heart remember the same light that reached Maria. Jonas and Teresais reaching for you now, because the Rosary is more than prayer. It is a lifeline of love, a light that never goes out.